good, everybody, and welcome back. I'm glad we could all tune in today on Psychology 411. We have news that Lacan has risen from the dead. After years of being dead, he just decided to come back. Apparently, he's to talk to us about the three registers, symbolic, the imaginary, and the real. So we'll hear from him on that. He is a psychoanalyst who was a student of Freud and was inspired by him, which is how he came up with the three registers. So let's see what he has to say about that. Go.
Bonjour, là, je suis Jacques Lacan, but I will speak in English for us today. What can I say? I developed the three registers, the imaginary, the real, and the symbolic, and it seems in North America we don't know what these things are. So I'm here today to speak to you firstly about the imaginary, and we'll get to the other ones later. Think of the imaginary as using externalities to build your sense of self. What does this mean? Well, you think you know who you are, how you feel, what you want, but you constantly use other people to gauge this. Mirrors of you, your parents, your friends. This originates in you, in the mirror stage, when you're just a toddler, an infant, and you see a mirror for the first time and you say, that is me in the mirror, but that is not you. That is your physical form. You may have heard of dualism. Our minds and our sense of self are separate from what you see. And so, how does this inform on our sense of being? Well, if you were to use other people's opinion of you or what you perceive yourself to be to inform on yourself, how do you know that your thoughts are genuine? You say, I would like to be a doctor. I would like to be a lawyer. But so did all the other people who go to your school. How can you all be so genuinely interested in the same thing and no one says that their passion is to be a janitor? Is this only because everyone is so interested in saving lives? Maybe not. Maybe we look to our friends, society, we look to externalities to inform us on what we think we want. Maybe it's tricking you to making you think you want money, you want status. When in reality, your genuine self maybe does not want to be a doctor or a lawyer at all. And this is why you might struggle a lot while learning these things. You hate the process, you're always stressed, and you say, but the reward will come. But when are you living in the moment? And so the imaginary is precisely the you that you imagine yourself to be, but that isn't really you. You will see that in our example here soon with my patient. So, in our last session, we had been talking about what it is you want. You're in your third year, I believe, of psychology and politics, and you were speaking of your uncertainties with law school applications, I believe, and the tremendous stress that you were feeling.
Yeah, I know my parents really, really want me to go to law school, and I've always been told to get really good grades and do my best and get a job that pays lots of money, and like law is obviously very prestigious, and like, yeah, which is, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm just tired because I don't think law is something I want to go into. I don't really want to be a corporate lawyer. And
But last year you said, this is something I want to achieve. You were certain you wanted to be a lawyer, and now
I don't know. I think it's more what my parents want. They've always had this pressure on me to be successful and like do the school route and like get all as many degrees as I can and be at the top. And it's hard because like they didn't even do that. My father went to school and then he dropped out, and then was working in like the rigs, and then my mom, like, she didn't even go to uni. She just had high school, and then she got married to my dad and had me. But now there's like all this pressure, and they want a life for me that I don't think aligns with what I want to do.
You look to them often to decide what you want to do.
Yeah, of course. I think their approval is very important to me, and I want them to be happy and support my decisions. And I just know if I go into law, like, everyone will be so proud of me and be so happy of what I'm doing, and they'll all think so very highly of me.
Oh, sorry. Psychology 411 again. You're interested in my work. That's good. I was going through my patient's notes. You must have just seen. You must have seen how the imaginary was reflected in her. And you may have picked up on something else. When referring when referring to her externalities, she often spoke of pressures from society, social norms, rules, laws. These are precisely what the symbolic is. My second register is where we look to symbols, yes, things that represent the values of the culture or historical period that you are in, and we often refer to these to inform us on how we view ourselves and others. One I like to bring up is maybe even political identity. You say, I am Republican, I am a Democrat, I am part of the NDP. But what does this mean? There are a diverse amount of views in these groups, but as humans, we cling to belong to something. To say, I am this. You might even say, I am a man, I am a woman. And many of these things can be partially true. I'm not here to say that you cannot do this. It can be empowering to belong to anything. I am Latino, I am African, I am indigenous. But sometimes these belongings can be exaggerated, can take away from your individual genuine identity. Because what I am trying to say in the symbolic is that these identifications can be arbitrary. Why? If you were born 100 years ago, or across the sea, or into a different family, you would have a completely different sense of symbols that you value. So, is it so much that you were genuine and that you were able to find the best, most important symbols? Or were you just a product of your time or your environment? So I invite people to introspect and feel and grow and really assess what it means to them to belong to something like this. There is no right answer. There is no, you cannot feel like you are a Democrat. You cannot feel like you are a man. You can take this in any direction. But I, for example, I don't feel like, okay, I am a man. I was born this way, and this might not be the answer for everyone. You may be born a certain way and identify and feel a symbol attachment to something else. But yes, true introspection asks you to wonder, is this you, or are you trying to belong to something because it feels good to belong? I just wanted to brush up on Simon, was his name. How long have you been with him for?
7 years now.
And that is a good relationship for you, I've noticed.
Yeah, we've been engaged for 2 years, and yeah, he's really my person. He's my best friend, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with him.
2 years, long engagement.
Yes, it's been a bit of a disaster getting all the family things sorted and picking a venue and honeymoon, guest list, and just all these things that are just so. For what? I don't like that. Like, it just keeps getting pushed back, and I just.
Do you feel like you're getting married for the sake of getting married?
You know, yeah. I think it's just too much. It's not necessary that we have all these things. I love Simon and I want to spend my life with him. Do we really need to go through a whole marriage process because everybody else does it and have a grand wedding in a church and all those things that are expected? Can't I just go and live with my partner and spend that money we would have spent on the wedding and on a vacation? And we love each other and we know that. Isn't that enough?
Well, to some, it feels good to be a married person. It gives them strength, security. It's empowering. But you can still decide for you if that is the case, or if that's just the official check mark to a relationship that you've already built for life before the wedding.
Yeah. You know, I really don't want this big of a wedding. I think I just want to go live with my partner, and that's all we need. I don't need that checkmark stamp of approval in this grand thing. Now we are going to talk about my last register, the real. It is nearly indescribable because that is what its most blanket definition is. It is what we cannot assign words to easily without serious introspection, without serious analysis. When we fail to find the words to describe our emotions, our persistent cycles of behavior, of success and failure, it is, I'll give you an example. When a soldier returns from war and is traumatized, and there is a silence often during therapy. You ask them, well, how does this make you feel? A common question in therapy. And they can barely find the words to say what they are feeling, because I even cannot understand what they have gone through. And we take very serious note of silence in psychoanalysis. It is part of the real. It is growth for them. They are combating it in their mind when they speak of this traumatic event. But the real is also everywhere. It is not just about the poor traumatic events that you cannot speak on. The real is simply it happens to everyone. It is inherent to human consciousness. How? And how is it that it is inherent to all of us? Well, it is because we are all living contradictions. We aspire to do something, an idealized version of ourselves, as I have spoken, in the imaginary. But of course, we constantly fail to always live up to that. Oh, for example, I would like to be a professional soccer player. I would like to do well in school. But always we make decisions that are not aligned with this. You procrastinate, you do not study enough, you go out. And of course, there are useful parts of behavioral psychology that will tell you, well, how do I remedy this? But psychoanalysis tells you that there is an incongruence generally then with your goal and what you are trying to achieve. If you are constantly unable to commit to the actions that have to do with your pursued goal, perhaps you are doing that pursued goal for someone else and not for you, or for money. And this is not a criticism. Many of us are forced to do things for money. You want to raise a family, you have to commit to something. But sometimes we are simply unhappy because we must do what we do not want to do. And the real is that feeling when you just don't know what's wrong, why you always are into a cycle of euphoria and into a cycle of downs.
It's because there is never perfect congruence between the idealized version of yourself and how you're able to act in society. I would like to revisit this, did you say nagging suspicion I had here in my notes of just something going wrong along the way?
Yeah, I'm always very scared of like what's gonna happen next, and I'm always like extra planning and being extra careful. I guess the unknown of the future really scares me a lot, and like the uncertainty of it. Aren't you gonna say something?
I had nothing to add in that particular moment. I think you lost yourself in thinking about what it is for you that leads to these worries, and you were evaluating yourself, and there's nothing that I can do better than you in that regard.
But aren't you just here to like solve all my problems for me?
With would you what do you think that if you just had the better routine that you wouldn't have these thoughts anymore? If you just worked out one more time a week, or if you stuck to those things that you said you would do, that this feeling would go away? This battle is the battle itself is the thing that you must overcome. You are you. Your growth will come naturally from accepting that.
It's interesting. I guess I've not thought of it that way. To just take a step back and truly analyze my thoughts and myself as a person, separate from everything, because I'm in my own entity just here.
You won't like me for this. There's 13 minutes left in our session, but this is where I would like to stop.
Lacan, one more question. Here, one more question.
Putting my chair away.
Tell us. So, like, how is psychoanalysis, like, how is it beneficial, and how is it better maybe than some other therapies that exist? The people are dying to know. Can you tell us?
My research was simply concerned with the subjective human experience. That was my question. How does the imaginary, the real, and the symbolic inform on the subjective human experience? And there is no quantitative or empirical ways to really come to answer this question. So I developed theory, feelings that people can relate to. And really what you must understand is that the three registers, they come as one to inform us on the subjective human experience. The imaginary is that you look to externalities to define yourself. What are those externalities? The symbolic, symbols, things to give value to you, approval to yourself. And the real, well, it comes from the very contradiction and incongruence that we are, because we know that these externalities are not us, and they leave us with a sense of an inability to live in the present, or just general feelings of I don't fit in, or I am not achieving my goals, or whatever it is that ruminates in your head. You all have it, and I have my own, and that is the real, that rumination that goes beyond the definition sometimes. And so it would be unfair to say there's one answer to research what is a subjective human experience. It's that we are all trying, we are all living contradictions, and that you need to be harsh on yourself to think, how am I contradicting myself? Is this what I really want? But you also need to be forgiving, because everyone is this way. Thank you.
Thank you, Lacan, so much from Psych 411. It was so nice
I
to
must
have you. Thank
Die
you.
again now.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for sharing this information with us.